Some of them manage to evade justice through luck, while others rely on connections and backgrounds. Regardless, this group is extremely dangerous, and ordinary people often try to avoid them at all costs. Perseus patted Katie on the shoulder and then pressed Carol's hand down, signaling them to calm down and continue sitting by the campfire with him. The five men also sat down opposite, gathered around the campfire, and took out food from their small bags to eat. That middle-aged man was a man of principle. After resting for a while, he returned to the woods and came back carrying a bundle of firewood. Ivisa remained seated on the other side of the carriage, not looking in their direction. Winnie, however, remained vigilant and ready to attack at any moment. But things remained peaceful around the campfire, with both sides remaining calm. My name is Mario, and these are my companions. As you can see, we are all adventurers. We have formed an adventure group called the Bloodfang Adventure Group, but unfortunately, we are not well known yet. When I ask others, they usually say they don't know about us. After a while, the young man began to introduce himself. Chris, Perseus said naturally, ignoring Carol's surprised look. This one, he pointed to Katie, is called Angie. Then she pointed to Carol, Sabella. Then pointed to Winnie, Lalatina. Finally, she looked at Ivisa with tenderness and said, "That's my wife, Juliet." The girls were forced to accept their new names. It's not that Perseus was dishonest. Using a pseudonym is commonplace for adventurers, while using their real name is rare. Adventurers are prone to making enemies and getting into trouble when they travel. Using a pseudonym means you don't have to worry about your enemies finding your home by following the clues. If you get into trouble, you can run away without any burden, change your pseudonym in the next place, and continue living a carefree and happy life. Mario chuckled and began introducing his teammates. The middle-aged man's name is Ken. The magician girl's name is Alice. The girl with the greatsword is named Aesop, and it's no surprise that she and Mario are siblings. The tomboy has a name that is quite inconsistent with her image, Astrid, which means incomparable beauty. Unparalleled beauty. Her face was even rougher and more grotesque than Uncle Ken's, with even her nose hairs sticking out. What nearly made Perseus lose his composure was that this man and woman were lovers with the handsome Mario. You find it hard to believe? Mario asked. No, I do not disbelieve, Perseus smiled. My definition of beauty is different from that of most people. I firmly believe that beauty comes from the heart. So, in my opinion, the two of you, a talented woman and a handsome man, are a match made in heaven. Mario smiled, and then he and Astrid shared a passionate kiss on the spot. The visual impact of this was almost as striking as a handsome man intimately entwining with a wild boar. Perseus wanted nothing more than to gouge out his own eyes on the spot, but he had no choice but to keep smiling and watching. What a great love! From this perspective, it's possible for someone to fall in love with a monitor lizard, but it's something that most people can't accept from a worldly perspective. Perseus felt that he was too worldly. Let's see how the girls react. Katie didn't respond, as usual. It was purely a human-machine interaction. Carol couldn't bear to look at her, but tried her best to remain polite. Winnie seemed to have witnessed some timeless, beautiful love story, and was so moved that she kept wiping away tears. Dear family members watching this, do you think she's mentally sound? His Juliet had somehow gotten into the carriage, and he had no idea what she was thinking. Mario's companions were used to it, and they had a sickeningly sweet look on their faces, as if to say, "Oh dear, these two are showing off their love again." "All right, bro, stop kissing." Aesop slapped Mario's thigh hard. Mario and Astrid then reluctantly parted ways, and vomit. Perseus even suspected that these guys were deliberately putting on an act and had ulterior motives. But if an actor can perform to this level, he's willing to express his admiration, and if they want money, they can take it. Anyway, we can always snatch it back halfway. "Sorry, I couldn't help myself," Mario said with a shy smile. Astrid blushed and shyly covered her face. Damn, what bad luck. For some reason, even though these people hadn't done anything wrong, Perseus just felt unlucky. I even feel like killing someone. Who should he seek compensation from for emotional distress? Chapter 133, Becoming an Adventurer. Are you adventurers? Mario asked. No, but we will tomorrow, Perseus said. Chris, if I may be so bold, you seem to be nobles, don't you? Mario asked seriously. This sentence made Mario's companions stare intently at Perseus, making Winnie and the others nervous. Perseus simply smiled and said, That's right, they are nobles. Mario's attitude became more enthusiastic. Since you intend to become adventurers, Do you already have a trustworthy adventurer team in Eagle Peak City? Perseus shook his head. Then you can join our Bloodfang Adventurers Guild. Mario said, although we are not famous, we are definitely people you can trust. You should know how important that is to adventurers, right? He continued, you all seem very young and inexperienced. In a place like Eagle Peak City, where all sorts of people mingle, you could easily be devoured by those wolves and tigers without leaving a trace. We know all the ins and outs of this place. If you join us, I can't guarantee you'll become rich, but I definitely won't let you suffer any losses. Mario's enthusiasm was no accident, because having a noble teammate is a great advantage. Noble adventurers are relatively rare, but they are not non-existent. The reason for this rarity is that nobles are wealthy and have no worries about food and drink, so there's no need for them to go out and risk their lives, as they might accidentally lose their own lives. Even nobles from poorer families would hesitate to engage in the profession of adventurer, which was considered crude and lowly by other nobles, due to the disapproving looks from them. However, some nobles still choose to become adventurers for various reasons. These people, even if they know nothing, can't even hold a knife properly, and are complete trash, can still secure a place in various adventure groups. Adventurers often clash with each other, and bloodshed and death are common occurrences. Imperial laws were extremely harsh on commoners. If a fight between two civilians results in death, no matter how wronged or justified you are, you will still be sentenced to death without question. Adventurers are far more likely to fight over money or women than ordinary people. However, there are also ordinary people under imperial law and will be suppressed by the same harsh laws. However, when nobles and commoners fight, regardless of the reason, if a commoner kills a nobleman, the commoner pays with his life. If a nobleman kills a commoner, he pays a fine, and that's the end of it. If the nobleman's background is strong enough, not only will the fine not be paid, but the commoner's relatives and friends will also have to pay compensation. This inequality often leaves commoners and nobles feeling constrained and caught in a dilemma when conflicts erupt between them. You originally just wanted to teach the other person a lesson, but they went straight for the kill and wanted to kill you, while you didn't dare to take their life unless you didn't want to live anymore. How frustrating must that be? Although adventurers often teeter on the brink of death, they cherish their lives more than ordinary people. Therefore, when dealing with nobles, they would do their utmost to avoid conflict with them. Even if the other party deliberately causes trouble, they can only put on a smiling face. This Bloodfang adventure group had clearly learned its lesson in this regard, so it desperately wanted noble teammates so it wouldn't have to worry about other noble adventurers causing trouble. Perseus believed these people meant no harm, but he still shook his head. Sorry, we want to form our own adventure team. All right, have a good adventure. Mario did not persist. This is the behavior of a mature adventurer. Although they desperately want something, they never pester or beg. This is good for both parties. Although it was just normal behavior, I did refuse the other party's invitation and offended them. Mario was fine, but his teammates' attitudes toward Perseus and his group became noticeably colder. Then the two sides did not communicate any further. The Bloodfang adventurers always have 3 people on guard duty, while 2 rest, taking turns throughout the night. Perseus' situation was much simpler. Apart from Winnie and Carol needing to sleep because they couldn't stay awake, Ivisa, and Katie didn't need to rest at all. A peaceful night passed. As dawn broke, both sides prepared to depart. Perseus has brought the carriage back to the main road. Mario and his companions had no means of transportation, so they stood by the roadside waiting for a passing horse-drawn carriage. He wanted to invite the other party to ease the awkwardness of refusing their invitation the night before, but unfortunately the carriage had limited space and couldn't fit so many people. See you in Eagle Peak City, everyone. After saying goodbye to Mario, Perseus drove the girls to Eagle Peak. Soon, they arrived at Eagle Peak City. Because the city gates had just opened, a large number of carriages and pedestrians were waiting to enter and exit, causing a congestion at the city gates for quite some time before Perseus and his companions were finally able to enter. Eagle Peak City is not as large as the capital, but it is even more bustling. Unlike the orderly capital, this place possesses a wild and untamed vitality, and simply being here inspires lofty ambitions. Everywhere you look, you see loud-voiced adventurers of all kinds of appearances and races, some with distinct exotic features, clearly from countries far from the Empire. Instead of immediately registering his adventurer status and team at the Adventurers Guild, a landmark building in Eagle Peak City, Perseus first asked a passerby for directions to a local real estate agent and spent a whopping 3,000 gold coins to buy a very nice house. The sheer extravagance of his gesture stunned Carol. Houses in Eagle Peak City are very expensive. 3,000 gold coins can't buy a good house in a good location. But Perseus doesn't care about location. He only cares about the quality of the house. The house has 3 floors, is sturdy and clean, and is fully furnished and decorated, so you can move in without cleaning. After resting briefly in the house, Perseus led the girls to the Adventurers Guild. This was probably the noisiest and most chaotic place in the entire Eagle Peak City. Even with military police maintaining order, the group witnessed a brutal free-fighting match as soon as they arrived, with blood flowing freely and even the military police unable to restrain them. Fortunately, the way in and out of the hall was not obstructed, and these people were still law-abiding. Registering as an adventurer is very simple and has few restrictions. As long as you appear to be of the right age, you can complete the registration on the spot by paying a registration fee of 1 gold coin. Registering for an Adventurers Guild requires a one-time payment of 10 gold coins. This small amount of money is nothing to Perseus right now. Having received their newly issued identity badges, they were now officially recognized as adventurers. The next step was to buy clothes and change their attire so they could blend in with the adventurers. Adventurers' equipment is mostly custom-made, made from materials from certain magical beasts, and has the effect of enhancing defense or amplifying magic. It cannot be bought simply with money. Perseus went to the market and bought some materials, then went home and used magic to make it himself. Soon, they changed their appearance. Chapter 134 is among them. Perseus's custom-made clothes perfectly suited everyone's personalities, resulting in near-perfect satisfaction. Ivaisa and Carol need more accessories. Her face was so striking that she had to cover it with some kind of animal skin mask. Although her new look is quite attractive, it seems rather ordinary in Eagle Peak City, where beauties abound. As for her hair color, he used magic to change it last night, and now it's pure black, just like his. Ivaisa didn't care at all, but Winnie seemed to have a lot to say, constantly glaring and pouting at Perseus. Who cares about her? Carol's enemies in Eagle Peak City are powerful and influential. It's possible that someone who knows her might tip her off for their own benefit, so her appearance also needs to be changed. Perseus's plan was to maintain the status quo of enemy in the open, me in the dark, until he finally settled accounts with those guys. Now, we are adventurers. Remember your names on your nameplates, and don't call them by the wrong names. Now go back to your rooms and rest. We can talk about anything else tomorrow morning. But it's still early. It's only past noon. Wouldn't we just be wasting the day doing nothing? Winnie asked. That's because you slept soundly last night. Do you think everyone sleeps like a pig like you? Perseus rubbed his slightly sore eyes and smiled. I'm going to rest now. Katie doesn't have any magic to relieve fatigue. She stayed up all night by sheer willpower. Now that things are basically settled and she doesn't need to worry about safety, she should go to sleep. Carol was also feeling sleepy. She had stayed up half the night and hadn't gotten enough rest. She glanced at Perseus and then went to her assigned room. Ivaisa didn't say a word and went to her room. Perseus traveled with her. They are now husband and wife, so it's only natural for them to sleep in the same room. He forcefully suppressed any dissenting voices. Unable to get any attention, Winnie had no choice but to stay home. She had originally planned to go out with Perseus to stroll around the streets and see what was going on, but now she could only sleep in with everyone else. Perseus and Ivaisa lay in bed, and, as usual, they had to have a short meeting first. You can ask me any other questions. I won't tell anyone else who asks me. I'll only tell you. Perseus said. Does it really make sense for you to pretend to be my wife? Ivaisa asked expressionlessly. She's talking nonsense again. I'm not doing this to take advantage of you. Perseus said helplessly. Most adventurers are men, and all men are greedy and lustful. How could they possibly resist someone as beautiful as you? Do you want me to work myself to death swatting flies? But I'm not pretty anymore, she said. You're beautiful no matter what, Perseus smiled. This wasn't just him flattering someone. While one's appearance can be altered with an animal skin mask, it's much harder to change one's physique. With her slender and shapely figure, even with a face similar to Astrid's, she still looks stunning. Ivaisa closed her eyes, thus ending the argument. Perseus's hands started to wander.